Welcome back. I am Dayla, the Demon Whisperer, your privileged host, and it is my pleasure to host this live reading of Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay called Compensation. I know you're like, where the heck did this come from? Well, what you will find is that any minute now, we have a brand new episode loading and posting to this channel about the universal law of compensation, where we do a nice little breakdown on the law. And during that episode, Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on compensation was featured. And I decided to come over and take a closer look at it. Shout out to the Internet Archives. I was able to find a copy of the 52-page essay online. No, I will not be reading all 52 pages today. It will be my pleasure to break it down into, I'm going to say, about 5 or 6 page segments. We'll see. So I'm going to give you a couple house rules real quick before we get started. As you know, or as you probably don't know, but you're going to find out tonight, this is a no judgment zone. Nope. This is a no judgment zone. No, I heard what I said. This is a no judgment zone. I had to say that for the Christians in the back and the ones in the front. For the ones that want to bring your beliefs, your doctrines, your ways, your convictions, all conversation is welcome, but you will not religiously abuse anybody in this community. Okay? So this is a no judgment zone. This is also not for children. Now, I don't plan to go in very much or do any explanation on what we're reading. I'm literally reading this with you, but it still ain't for children because you never know. And I like to keep it that way for us so we can come in and lounge and smoke our smoke and drink our drink and chill. And I might just read you to sleep tonight. We'll see. Then you're going to have some really sweet dreams. House rule number 3. It's simply like house rule number 1. Please just stay on topic in the chat, in the comments. I appreciate and enjoy your contribution here. Thank you so much for being here. Also, feel free to join us on Patreon, Dayla the Demon Whisperer on Patreon, where you can get more exclusive content. And with a monthly membership on Patreon comes a very special and personal gift that I have the pleasure of sharing with you. So I look forward to seeing and getting to know more of you on Patreon. Shout outs to our old heads on Patreon. Shout outs to our new members. Why don't we dig on in? I think we're going to dig on in and get the book going. I call it a book. It is sold in book format. You can buy it on Amazon. I was actually able to find it for free from Internet Archive. It looks like, shout outs to my hometown, the University of California, Los Angeles has kept a copy for us. I was even able to see, I thought it was very cool. Look at all the dates of people that checked this book out. 1950, 1955, 1992, 1978. OMG. 1967. This book has probably touched some lives. And every single one of those stamps was a person who wanted to understand more about how they could get more by giving more. They wanted to unlock a very special and important law. I can almost guarantee you that 9 out of 10 of these stamps are probably people who lived and or died very wealthy, because they probably learned something that we're going to learn from this essay that changed how they move, breathe, and have their being. Shit. So I'm excited. I love to see stuff like that. I love to look at library books because I'm an old library head, baby. I used to go to the library when I didn't have nothing else to do, even as a young person. And I would love to see the books and see all the dates of all the people that checked it out. OMG. Look at that. All of this was before the internet now. All of this was before social media now. All of this was when you had to go use a Dewey Decimal Number, go find them, walk down the hall and use a number, and had this little number on a piece of paper. What a Dewey Decimal Number for this book? I'm interested in knowing. Maybe I'll find out. That's when you had to go use that Dewey Decimal, go down that aisle and find that book and make sure you got the right one. Yes. Shout out to the University of Los Angeles, California, aka UCLA, for keeping us together. And you know what? I'm gonna do this. I had an inkling that I was gonna do this for the one time. Shout outs to my hometown, baby. Shout outs to my hometown for keeping this archive alive, keeping this information available so that in 2024 we can learn these things. I'm excited to do this today. So let's get to work. I'm gonna make it a little bigger because I'm 44. I think I needed it right here. All right. And feel free to leave your comments, leave your insights, leave your disagreements, leave your conversation. I have opened up the chat, so feel free to chat. And shout out to everybody who is also watching us from Patreon. I'm sorry I forgot about y'all. I am actually going to open up Patreon so that I can keep an eye on your comments as well. That way we can keep you involved in the conversation. And as I said, there is actually a episode airing right now that talks about the law of compensation. It was the episode that inspired this whole thing. Okay. Again, I am going to read about 5 or 6 pages of this. It's written very small. So 5 pages is probably 10 pages in real life. I'm going to read about 5 pages or so, and then we'll come back and catch it on the next go round. Okay. Because I am not going to wear myself out. That's one reason why I chose to go live, so that I could have a real gauge on my energy. If I pre-recorded, then I could push myself a little bit harder than I probably should. So let's see. Let me make sure I got everything we need in order. Let me close a couple things. Make sure we got everything we need. I think we're good. And we are good. Okay, good. All right, we're ready to go. So I bring you Emmerson's essay on compensation as read by Bela, the Demon Whisperer, baby. Let's see. Now, there's an introduction written by Lewis Nathaniel Chase. I did want to go ahead and read that introduction. It is pretty lengthy, so that might be what we read tonight. Shout out to 1906. You know who you are. Shout out to 1906, baby. And let me see here. I want to read this. I have nothing charactered in my brain that outlives this word, compensation. I have nothing charactered in my brain that outlives this word, compensation. I think that's a very strong way to start an essay called Compensation. Now, this was quoted in the journal June 29, 1831. I love old words. All right, let's start with the introduction. And forgive me if I miss you in the chat. It's just because I'm busy reading. Actually, you know what? I don't want to read the introduction now that I think about it. I want to go straight to the meat. Because oftentimes if the introduction is written by somebody else, it's not necessarily what I want to read. It gives us more information about the author usually, but not necessarily about the context of what we're talking about. So let's dig straight into Emmerson's essay on compensation then, baby. Let's do it. Well, that's 15 of the 52 pages out the way. That gives us even less to work on. I like that. I like that. All right. starts off by saying, compensation. The wings of time are black and white, pied with morning and with night. Mountain tall and ocean deep, trembling balance duly keep. In changing moon, in tidal wave, glows the feud of want and have. Gauge of more and less through space, electric stars and pencil plays. The lonely earth amid the balls that hurry through the eternal halls. A make weight flying to the void, supplemental asteroid, or compensatory spark shoots across the neutral dark. Wow, that's very astrological, astronomical. I love it. I'll speak on one thing about this. I was reminded last week when we saw the spacewalk. My sister said, it's not a spacewalk. I don't know. This is my accent of you. I couldn't speak your accent ever, but she's got a very beautiful accent. And she said, it's not a spacewalk. I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they wouldn't call it a spacewalk. Shout out to my sister, Lerato. But what I'm reminded of is how, I forget, I think it was Annie that said, astronaut Annie, that said, when the sun goes up and down on Earth, we see that here every 106 minutes. Our 24 hours on Earth was 106 minutes there, about 1,408 kilometers away from Earth. Multiply that by 1,000 and you know how many miles that is. What was interesting to me, because I did do the math, and what I realized after I did the math was that time was moving approximately 13 times faster where they were. And some of that was because of the lack of gravity. And so when my sister and I were talking about that spacewalk, we got to talking about things like what we see here on the screen and how interesting it is, because both of us are very philosophical people. Both of us are manifestors. We're both witches. And so we were talking about how interesting it is that when you can escape gravity, you can actually manifest anything as fast as you want, because the same limitations on time don't exist outside of gravity. And that's what I see here. So shout outs to Ralph Waldo Emmerson for getting us started like that. Wow, that was good. Much obliged. Oh, there's more. Shout out to everybody who made notes in the book too. I love it. That's how I got through college, reading everybody else's notes in the book. I'll read this next page too. It looks like we have another poem or a writing of some sort. Man's the elm and wealth the vine. Stanchion strong the tendrils twine. Though the frail ringlets thee deceive, none from its stock that vine can reave. Fear not then, thou child infirm. There's no God dare wrong a worm. Laurel crowns cleave to deserts, and power to him who power exerts. Hast not thy share on winged feet? Lo, it rushes thee to meet, and all that nature made thy own, floating in air or pent in stone, will ride the hills and swim the sea, and like thy shadow follow thee. Shout outs to this. That is way too deep for me. I feel like I gotta smoke. I gotta catch up to that whatever that was Ralph was on, because Ralph had that shit. I ain't even gonna hold you. That's why this is not for children. That's why I kept house rule number 2 over here too. Okay, maybe now I'm ready. Let's see. So Ralph starts off by saying, Ever since I was a boy, I have wished to write a discourse on compensation. For it seemed to me, when very young, that on this subject, life was ahead of theology, and the people knew more than the preachers taught. The documents, too, from which the doctrine is to be drawn, charm my fancy by their endless variety, and lay always before me, even in sleep. For they are the tools in our hands, the bread in our basket, the transactions of the street, the farm, and the dwelling house, the greetings, the relations, the debts and credits, the influence of character, the nature and endowment of all men. It seemed to me also that in it might be shown men a ray of divinity, the present action of the soul of this world, clean from all vestige of tradition, and so the heart of man might be bathed by an indentation of eternal love, conversing with that which he knows was always and always must be, because it really is now. It appeared, moreover, that if this doctrine could be stated in terms with any resemblance to those bright intuitions in which this truth is sometimes revealed to us, it would be a star in many dark hours and crooked passages in our journey that would not suffer us to lose our way. I was lately confirmed in these desires by hearing a sermon at church. The preacher, a man esteemed for his orthodoxy, unfolded in the ordinary manner of doctrine of the Last Judgment. This is about to get good. He assumed that judgment is not executed in this world, that the wicked are successful, that the good are miserable, and then urged from reason and from scriptures a compensation to be made to both parties in the next life. No offense appeared to be taken by the congregation at this doctrine. As far as I could observe, when the meeting broke up, they separated without remark on the sermon. Yet, what was the import of this teaching? What did the preacher mean by saying the good are miserable in present life? Was it that houses and lands, offices, wine, horses, dress, luxury are had by the unprincipled men? Whilst the saints are poor and despised, and that a compensation is to be made to these last hereafter by giving them the gratifications another day, bank stock and doubloons, venison and champagne. This must be the compensation intended for what else? Is it that they are to have leave to pray and praise, to love and serve men? Why, that they can do now. The legitimate inference the disciple would draw was, we are to have such a good time as sinners have now. Or, to push it to the extreme, import, you sin now, we shall sin by and by. We would sin now if we could, not being successful, we expect our revenge tomorrow. Let me do a quick sound check. Hold on. Let me just double check and make sure I'm good. I forgot to do that. I apologize. Give me 1 second. I'm tickled. I'm loving this. All right, we good. Thanks for letting me do that. I forgot. My bad. My apologies. Now you be quiet. All right, let's continue. Wow, this is getting good. uh, we are on page. That's not right. Hold on. Where are we at? We are on. In the book, we're on page 2, but I believe it's like page 18 or 19 is what we're on. If you follow along. The fallacy lay in the immense concession that the bad are successful, that justice is not done now. The blindness of the preacher consisted of deferring to the base estimate of the market of what constitutes a manly success. Instead of confronting and convicting the world from the truth, announcing the presence of the soul, the omnipotence of the will, and so establishing the standard of good and ill, of success and falsehood, and summoning the dead to its present tribunal, I find a similar base tone in the popular religious works of the day, and the same doctrines assumed by the literary men when occasionally they treat the related topics. I think that our popular theology has gained in decorum and not in principle over the superstitions it has displaced. But men are better than this theology. Their daily life gives it the lie. Every ingenuous and aspiring soul leaves the doctrine behind him in his own experience. And all men feel sometimes the falsehood which they cannot demonstrate. For men are wiser than they know. That which they hear in schools and pulpits without afterthought, if said in conversation, would probably be questioned in silence. If a man dogmatized in a mixed company of providence and the divine laws, he is answered by a silence which conveys well enough to an observer the dissatisfaction of the hearer, but his incapacity to make his own statement. I shall attempt in this and the following chapter to record some facts that indicate the path of the law of compensation. Happy beyond my expectation if I shall truly draw the smallest arc of this circle. I love him. Shout out to Ralph Waldo Emerson, Mo Juba. Okay, Mo Juba. All right. Let me grab a sip of coffee. I just realized you can't see some of this. Hold on, I'm sorry. My bad. I think that's better. Yeah, that's better. My apologies. Let's see. And let me make it even better for you because I'm good at that. There we go. There we go. All right. Polarity or action and reaction. We meet in every part of nature, in darkness and light, in heat and cold, in the ebb and flow of waters, in male and female, in the inspiration and expiration of plants and animals, in the systole and the diastole of the heart, in the undulations of fluids and of sound, in the centrifugal and centripetal gravity, centrifugal and centripetal gravity, in electricity, galvanism, and chemical affinity. Superinduced magnetism at one end of a needle, the opposite magnetism takes place at the other end. If the south attracts, the north repels. To empty here, you must condense there. An inevitable dualism bisects nature so that each thing is a half and suggests another thing to make it whole. As spirit, matter, man, woman, subjective, objective, in, out, upper, under, motion, rest, yea, nay. Whilst the world is thus dual, so is every one of its parts. The entire system of things gets represented in every particle. There is somewhat that resembles the ebb and flow of the sea. Day and night, man and woman in a single needle of the pine, in a kernel of corn, in each individual of every animal tribe. The reaction, so grand in the elements, is repeated within these small boundaries. For example, if the animal, in the animal kingdom, the physiologist has observed that no creatures are favorites, but a certain compensation balances every gift and every defect. A suppulsive, I'm sorry, surplusive. I have never seen that word before. Hey, hang on a second. I gotta find out what that means. A surplusive. I have to find out what that means. If you know, put it in the chat because I sure don't know. Wait, I didn't even pronounce it right. Surplusage. There we go. It's a term that has multiple uses, including in jurisprudence and in everyday speech. Okay, so in jurisprudence, surplusage is a language in legal document that is irrelevant or unnecessary. In everyday speech, surplusage can mean a state of going beyond what is usual, proper, or needed. Okay, thank you. I think we got it. I'm gonna give you an example just in case, because that sounds like an older word, or maybe it's just a new word to me, and I'm grateful for it. For example, a mall with a surplusage of stores, all selling the same lines of clothing. So it sounds like unnecessary repetition, irrelevant. What's the other word we say? I forget. But a surplusage given to one part is paid out of a reduction from another part of the same creature. If the head and neck are enlarged, the trunk and extremities are cut short. The theory of the mechanic forces, the theory of the mechanic forces is another example. What we gain in power is lost in time, and the converse. The periodic or compensating errors of the planets is another instance. The influences of the climate and soil in political history is another. The cold climate invigorates. The barren soil does not breed fevers, crocodiles, tigers, or scorpions. The same dualism underlies the nature and condition of man. Every excess causes a defect. Every excess causes a defect. Every defect causes an excess. Every sweet hath its sour, every evil its good. Every faculty which is a receiver of pleasure has an equal penalty put on its abuse. It is to answer for its moderation with its life. For every grain of wit, there is a grain of folly. For everything you've missed, you've gained something else. And for everything you gain, you lose something. If riches increase, they are increased that use them. If the gatherer gathers too much, nature takes out the man, takes out nature takes out the man, baby. Nature takes out of the man what she puts into his chest, swells the estate, but kills the owner. Nature hates monopoly and exceptions. The waves of the sea do not more speedily seek a level from their loftiest tossing than the varieties of condition tend to equalize themselves. There is always some leveling circumstance that puts down the overbearing, the strong, the rich, the fortunate, substantially on the same ground with all others. I hear in my head P. Diddy. Is a man too strong and fierce for society, and by temper and position a bad citizen, a morose ruffian with a dash of the pirate in him? Nature sends him a troop of pretty sons and daughters who are getting along in the dames classes, at the village school, and love and fear for them smooths his grim scowl to courtesy. Thus, she contrives to init. Oh Lord, there's another new word. You know, I gotta look it up. Itinerate. Oh, I gotta find that word. Hold on. I'm sorry. I like that word. Itinerate, baby. Let me find it. Is it itinerate or itinerant? Oh, no, itinerate. Thank you for taking a slow walk with me. I appreciate it. Because I like to know what these words mean. To make tender, honey. To soften. That just made me blush. Okay, so thus she strives, thus she contrives to incinerate the granite and feldspar, takes the boar out and puts the lamb in, and keeps her balance true. The farmer imagines power and place are fine things, but the president is paid dear for his White House. It has commonly cost him all of his peace and the best of his manly attributes. That sound like some tea. He was throwing shade in 1831, wasn't he? To preserve for a short time, so conspicuous in appearance before the world, he is content to eat dust before the real masters who stand erect behind the throne. Or do men desire the more substantial and permanent grandeur of genius? Neither has this an immunity who by force of will or of thought is great and overlooks thousands, has the responsibility of overlooking. With every influx of light comes new danger. Has he light? He must bear witness to the light and always outrun that sympathy. I love you, Ralph, but it sometimes it's hard to read Ralph Waldo Emerson because he don't edit his shit. I love you, but I love you though. Shout outs to you. Don't be mad at me. He must bear witness to the light and always outrun that sympathy which gives him such keen satisfaction by his fidelity to new revelations of the incessant soul. He must hate father and mother, wife and child. Has he all that the world loves and admires and covets? He has all that the world loves and admires and covets. He must cast behind him their admiration and afflict them by the faithfulness to his truth and become by word and a hissing. Mm-mm-mm. This law writes the laws of cities and nations, honey. It will not be balked of its end in the smallest iota. Here's the dirty side of the law of compensation. Okay? Here's the dark side of the law of compensation. It is in vain to plot or build or combine against it. Combine against it. Things refuse to be mismanaged long. Res nolunt dui male administraria. I apologize. I don't read Latin. Though, if that's what that is, I'm guessing that's either Latin or French or a language I don't read. I apologize. Though no checks to a new evil appear, the checks exist and will appear. If the government is cruel, the government's life is not safe. If you tax too high, the revenue will yield nothing. If you make the criminal code sanguinary, juries will not convict. Nothing arbitrary, nothing artificial can endure. Wow. That takes me back to when we were watching What Happens After We Die, and the man was talking about authenticity. The true life and satisfactions of man seem to elude the utmost rigors or felicities of condition, and to establish themselves with great indifferency under all varieties of circumstance. Under all governments, the influence of character remains the same. In Turkey and New England, about alike, under the primeval despots of Egypt, history honestly confesses that man must have been as free as culture could make him. These appearances indicate the fact that the universe is represented in every one of its particles. Everything in nature contains all the powers of nature. Everything is made of one hidden stuff, as the naturalist sees one type under every metamorphosis, and regards a horse as a running man, a fish as a swimming man, a bird as a flying man, a tree as a rooted man. Each new form repeats not only the main character of the type, but part for part, all the details, all the aims, furtherances, hindrances, energies, and the whole system of every other. Every occupation, trade, art, transaction is a compend of the world and a correlative of every other. Each one is an entire emblem of human life. That sounds like the law of one as well. Of its good and ill, its trials, its enemies, its course, and its end. And if you are just now joining, we are reading Emerson's essay on compensation, and I am loving it. I'm going to read that last part one more time. Each one is an entire emblem of human life, of its good and ill, its trials, its enemies, and its course and its end. And each one must somehow accommodate the whole man and recite all his destiny. The world globes itself in a drop of dew. The microscope cannot find the animalcule, which is less perfect for being little. Eyes, ears, taste, smell, motion, resistance, appetite, and organs of reproduction that take hold on eternity all find room to consist in the small creature. So, do we put our life into every act? Or so do we put our life into every act? The true doctrine of omnipresence is that God reappears with all his parts in every moss and cobweb. Ashe. The value of the universe contrives to throw itself in every point. If the good is there, so is the evil. If the affinity, so the repulsion. If the force, so the limitation. Thus is the universe alive. All things are moral. That soul which within us is sentiment, outside us is law. Outside us is a law. We feel its inspiration out there in history. We can see its fatal strength. It is almighty. All nature feels its grasp. It is in the world, and the world was made by it. It is eternal, but it acts itself in time and space. Justice is not postponed. A perfect equity adjusts its balance in all parts of life. And the Greek of whatever is said there in Greek. The dice of God are always loaded. The world looks like a multiplication table or a mathematic equation, which, turn it how you will, balances itself. Is that something you agree with or disagree with? I would love to know. Take what figure you will. Its exact value, no more, no less, still returns to you. Every secret is told, every crime is punished, every virtue rewarded, every wrong redressed in silence and certainty. What we call retribution is the universal necessity by which the whole appears wherever a part appears. If you see smoke, there must be, right. Fire. If you see a hand or a limb, you know that the trunk to which it belongs is there behind. Every act rewards itself, or in other words, integrates itself in a twofold manner. First, in the thing or in a real nature, and secondly, in the circumstance or in the apparent nature. Men call the circumstance the retribution. The causal retribution is in the thing and is seen by the soul. The retribution in the circumstance is seen by the understanding. It is inseparable from the thing, but often spreads over a long time, and so does not become distinct until after many years. Whoa, I like that. The specific stripes may follow late after the offense, but they follow because they accompany it. Remember, time moves slower down here. Crime and punishment crime and punishment grow out of this stem. Punishment is the fruit that varieties of condition tend to equalize themselves. There's always some leveling circumstance that puts down the overbearing, the strong, the rich, the fortunate, substantially on the same ground with all others. Why do I feel like, wait a minute, didn't we just read that page? Hold on. I went backwards instead of forwards. Punishment. This is why it took me forever to read Claude Anderson's book, because I do that sometimes. Punishment is a fruit that unsuspected ripens with the flower of the pleasure which concealed it. Cause and effect, means and ends, seed and fruit cannot be severed, for the effect already blooms in the cause, and the end pre-exists in the means, the fruit in the seed. I love it. Whilst thus the world will be whole and refuses to be disparted, we seek to act partially, to sunder, to appropriate. For example, to gratify the senses, we sever the pleasures of the senses from the needs of the character. The ingenuity of man has been dedicated always to the solution of one problem: how to detach the sensual sweet, the sensual strong, the sensual bright, etc., from the moral sweet, the moral deep, the moral fair, that is again to contrive to cut, to clean off his upper surface so thin as to leave it bottomless, to get a one end without the other end. That's religion. That's religion. That's not freedom. That's not spirituality at all. Because I just want to be free. 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 That song came on while I was vacuuming my car today. The soul says eat. The body would feast. The soul says the man and woman shall become one flesh, and the soul and one soul. The body would join the flesh only. The soul says, have dominion over all things to the ends of virtue. The body would have the power over things to its own ends. The soul strives amain to live and work through all things. It would be the only fact. All things shall be added unto it. Power, pleasure, knowledge, beauty. The particular man aims to be somebody, to set up for himself, to truck and higgle for a private good, and in particulars, to ride that he may ride, to dress that he may be dressed, to eat that he may eat, and to govern that he may be seen. Men seek to be great. They would have offices, wealth, power, and fame. They think that to be great is to get only one side of nature. the sweet without the other side, the bitter. Wow. You know what I'm loving about this is so very different from what we are going to look at together when I do my episode on the law of compensation, because that episode probably is premiering right now on this channel. And so when I get done reading, at some point, we will definitely look at that episode together, because this is very different. Ralph Waldo Emerson is giving us the real, real. Ralph Waldo Emerson is talking to us like my daddy and my granddaddy. Okay. Ralph Waldo Emerson is saying, if you want to get the sweet, you got to understand the bitter is going to come to it with it, because there are no morals to magic. And you have to understand that if you want to have power, you're going to be sometimes hated. Same with love. If you want to be loved, sometimes you have to accept being hated as well. And I love this balance. And I think we're going to shut this reading down on this page 10 of 30, and then we'll take a look at that episode that aired a little bit ago, because I haven't seen it yet either. So let me continue. This is good to me. Is this good to you? If this is good to you, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. Let me know that you are enjoying this. And if you do enjoy hearing essays read and philosophical conversation like this, please subscribe to this channel, like this live, like this video, share this with your networks, so we can get more of this out there. Give some good energy to it. Because if you don't respond to it, then I won't do. No, I'll still do it, because this is my living diary. I come back and watch this stuff. I created an affirmation on one of my other channels that I listen to every day, twice a day. It plays in the morning while I prepare for my meditation time, and it plays at night while I go to sleep. And I recently had the pleasure of sharing it with somebody else. So I will definitely come back and watch this, because this is good. So steadily is this dividing and detaching counteracted. Up to this day, it must be owned, no projector has had the smallest success. To this day, the parted water reunites behind our hand, baby. Pleasure is taken out of pleasant things, profit out of profitable things, power out of strong things. The moment we seek to separate them from the whole, we can no more have things and get the sensual good by itself than we can get an inside that shall have no outside, or a light without a shadow. Drive out nature with a fork. That bitch come running back. Life invests itself with inevitable conditions, which the unwise seek to dislodge. Which the unwise seek to dodge. Which one and another brags that he does not know, brags that they do not touch him, but the brag is on his lips. The conditions are in his soul. If he escapes them in one part, they attack him on another more vital part. Well, I don't know, because I received protection over my whole life and that of my loved ones and everybody but my enemies, honey. Because Malcolm X said, we love those who love us, but we don't love anybody who don't love us. So I just received a protection, Ralph. Okay? Maybe I'm delusional, but it happens to be that way. But Ralph said, if he escapes them in one part, they attack him on another more vital part. If he has escaped them in form and in appearance, it is that he has resisted his life and fled from himself. And the retribution is so much death. So signal is the failure of all attempts to make the separation of the good from the tax. And that the experiment would not be tried, since to try it is to be mad. But for the circumstance that when the disease began, I'm going to read the next sentence. But for the circumstance that when the disease began in the wheel of rebellion and separation, the intellect is at once infected, so that the man ceases to see God whole in each object, but is able to see the sensual allurement of an object and not see the sensual hurt. I'm gonna have to keep reading. He sees the mermaid's head, but not the dragon's tail, and thinks he can cut off that which he would have from that which he would not have. How secret art thou who dwellest in the highest heavens in silence, O thou only great God, sprinkling with an unwearied providence certain penal blindness. Upon such I have unbridled desires. I think that's where we got to cut it off. We are on page 12 of Emerson's essay on compensation. We are going to start our next reading, which will most likely be tomorrow, on the second paragraph because I want to knock this out. This is good. And I could keep reading it, but my mouth is tired. I need some water. What I do want to do though is I do want to switch over. I want to thank you first of all for watching this with me. This is available on the Internet Archive. I will post a link to it in the chat so that you are able, and if you're watching the replay, just pull over your comments bar and open up the live chat bar and you will be able to see the link that I'm posting. So bear with me 1 second. Did any of that, was any of that surprising? It was surprising to me. Because when I think about the law of compensation, I often think about what I talked about earlier, which is the give and get of like philanthropy or adding value to the planet. But Ralph Waldo Emerson really turned the whole thing on his head and starts off by saying, nigga, if you want power, you got to understand what comes with it. If you want wealth, you're going to have to understand what comes with it. And I'm interested to continue to see what comes after this because there's about 20 pages left. So I can't wait to see how he goes, how he goes deeper. I'm interested to see if he actually talks about some of the positive parts of compensation because it sounds like this is a huge reality check. It sounds like this is a reality check, bitch. I see Ralph Waldo Emerson being a little bit like Abraham Hicks. Abraham Hicks is always going to give it to us. The real, whether we want it or not, honey. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Did it upload yet? Hold on. It might be taking a while to still upload. Oh, it's still uploading. All right. Well, hey, I'll be watching it with you when it uploads. It looks like it's got about 40 minutes left. It's a pretty heavy file. It's got some music and some fun stuff. So we'll be watching that together. This is so good. This is good. I am really enjoying this, and it looks like we are halfway through it. It's reading like Ralph Waldo Emerson. But it is so good. It sounds like a conversation I would have with my papa if I called him fussing about my rich people problem. Because my daddy would quickly be like, that sound like rich people problem. He said, that sound like rich people problems. Now, what you want? The rich people? You gonna come with the problem. I think it was Biggie, right? Biggie said, more money, more problems, but I don't receive it, honey. I don't receive it. So I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of Dayla, the Demon Whisperer. This is a brand new channel that has come about of me being accused of being a demon. I was accused of being a devil worshiper, which I could never be because I'm God. I don't even understand that. I made it very clear the devil is my nigga, just like Martin Luther King. The devil is my nigga, just like Neville Goddard or Ralph Waldo Emerson or Kali. But just to be clear, I don't believe there's a God that can guide me other than my man, whatever he may be. So for now, that's all I got. Yes.
While you're still off of stage?
Yeah. She dropped the whole motherfucking mic, bitch. I holler. You know what I decided to do for whoever's watching? I decided that all the things that make us great over at De La Creme de La, we're going to bring over here. So you know what? I'm going to end the show. I am going to end this show the same exact way I would end our other show because I love the vibe. I love our vibe. So let me make sure I give Toasters and Moose the space. Okay, honey? I'm gonna make sure they get their time. Because I would be remiss, honey. Shout out to Lana Douglas. I would be remiss, honey, if I did not end the show in the most proper way possible. Let me bring up our song. I forgot all about it. I don't know why I wasn't ready. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I would like to introduce to you the band, the man, the woman they call Toasters and Moose. And I present to you Taste the Biscuit.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce. Don't get that honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it tastes with my chicken wings. Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the butter spread. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the butter spread. To get your butter spread all on me. I don't like the way it mixes with my mac and cheese. Cause when you're at KFC, you got that special sauce to stir my curiosity. Just give me a 5-piece meal. Oh, what a deal. A big old box, it's all for me.
All for me?
You know I'll take coleslaw on the side. I could tell you wanted to try the potato wedges.
I love this faster version.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit. Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce. Get your honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it mixes with my chicken wings. Get none of that honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it tastes on my chicken wings. Take us out, Moose.
Taste the biscuit.
That's my shit. That's my shit. That's my shit. That's still my song. I figured out at some point that y'all wanted the real De La Creme de la over here. And one thing we love about the De La Creme de la channel and the breakdown is that we don't take none of this shit way too seriously. We gonna have fun. We gonna enjoy our life. We ain't gonna be all spooky and super spiritual. I don't give a fuck, because it's gonna change your life and you're gonna have fun doing it. How about that? Thank y'all for joining me, and thank you guys for building this with me. It is my pleasure. Have a good night.